continue our plant diversity series, and today we are looking at the group of plants known as pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are seedless vascular plants. Seedless means they do not have seeds. Vascular means they have vascular tissues. They are represented by about 400 living and fossil genera and some 10,500 species. Now, where do we find pteridophytes? Most of the living pteridophytes are terrestrial, growing in moist and shady places. A few forms are xerophytic, that is, they are found in arid or dry places. Some pteridophytes are aquatic, like Azolla, Marsilia, and Salvinia. Now, how do they look like? They show variation in their form, in their size, and in their habits. They range from small annual to large tree-like perennials. The main plant body is sporophytic, differentiated into roots, stem, and leaves. The primary roots are ephemeral and are soon replaced by adventitious roots, which develop on rhizome. The stem is an underground rhizome by which ferns reproduce vegetatively. However, some primitive ferns have tree-like stem. The leaves are scaly, as in equisetum. They could be small and sessile, as we see in Lycopodium, or they could be large, petiolate, and compound, as in ferns. The leaves may be small or large, and they are called fronds. Note that the roots and stem of pteridophytes have well-developed vascular system composed of xylem and phloem. The xylem is made up of tracheates, and the phloem has sieve tubes only. Pteridophytes do not have cambium in their stem. Now we find two examples of pteridophytes, Lycopodium clavatum, known as common club moss, and you have a fern there, Phegopteris connectilis, the beach fern. Now let's look at reproduction in pteridophytes. Vegetative reproduction takes place by fragmentation of rhizome and adventitious buds. They can also reproduce sexually, and sexual reproduction is by means of spores which are produced in sporangia. The sporangia are usually borne on the ventral surface of the leaf. Sporangia occur on the surface of leaves in clusters called sori, or singular of sora is soros, and these leaves that bear the sporangia are known as sporophylls. The sporophylls with megasporangia are called megasporophylls, and those with microsporangia are called microsporophylls. Now, sporophylls are either uniformly distributed or are aggregated into compact cones called strobili at the apex of the stem. In the aquatic forms like Azolla, the sporangia are present within specialized structure called sporocarp. Now, most pteridophytes are homosporous, that is, they produce only one type of spores. Example is Lycopodium and equisetum. Some others are heterosporous, producing two types of spores, the microspores and the megaspores. The megaspore give rise to the female gametophyte, while the microspore germinates to give rise to the male gametophyte. Now, the spores germinate to produce a haploid gametophyte known as the prothallus. In homosporous pteridophytes, they produce bisexual gametophytes, while heterosporous pteridophytes produce unisexual gametophytes. The gametophyte is a thalloid called prothallus. It is free-living. It's usually free-living gametophyte bearing the sex organs, the antheridia, which is the male, and the archegonia, which is the female. The antheridia, the male sex organs, are small hemispherical structures enclosing 32 to 48 sporocytes, while the archegonium is a flask-shaped structure that is partially embedded in the prothallus. The neck of the archegonium has 4 vertical rows of cells. Note that water is essential for fertilization. The antherozoid and the egg fuse to form a diploid zygote, which functions as mother cells of sporophyte generation. Fertilization and zygote development into young embryo takes place within the young gametophyte. Now, this event is a precursor to the seed habits considered as an important step in evolution. Note that the life cycle of pteridophyte shows alternation of generation in which there is a dominant sporophyte and an inconspicuous gametophyte. Unlike in bryophytes, the gametophyte is dominant in bryophytes, but in pteridophytes we see that the sporophyte is dominant and its gametophyte is inconspicuous. Yet this diagram shows the generalized life cycle of pteridophytes. The first phase, the 1, 2, 3, 4, is the haploid phase, while the other phase, 5 and 6, there is the diploid phase. So it starts with a spore that comes from the sporangium. The spore germinates to give a gametophyte. Within the gametophyte, we have the sex organs, which releases the sperm and the egg. The sperm and egg fuse to form a diploid zygote. The zygote germinates to give you the sporophyte. And then in the sporophyte, the leaves of the sporophyte bears as the sporangium, where the spores are. The spores are released and the life cycle goes again and again. Let's look at the classification of pteridophytes. Generally, we can break them into 4 groups. The first groups are the Coelophyta. The second group is the Lycopodiophyta, and then we have the Equicetophyta and the Pterophyta. Now, Coelophyta is known as the weak fern. They are known as the whisk ferns. They are the most primitive of all vascular plants, and you have the examples there, e.g. Coelotum nodum. We also have the Lycopodiophyta, the club and the spike mosses. Lycopodium are the club mosses, Selaginella are the spike mosses. Some lycopods are termed ground pines. We have examples of Lycopodium obscurum and Lycopodium clavatum and Selaginella paliscens. Then we also have the third group, the Equicetophyta. The major surviving plants in this group is the Equisetum, called the ostill. Equisetum is called the ostill because its many bushy branches make it look like a horsetail. Equisetum plants are also termed scouring rushes because the epidermal cells have silica, which makes the plant feel abrasive. Pterophyta are the ferns, and they make up the largest group among the pteridophytes. Ferns are shade and moisture-loving plants. Their stems may be upright or in the form of a rhizome. The frond in this group, that's the ferns, is unique as it is the most attractive and ornamental part of the plant. An example of a fern is Pteridium aquilinum. We also have Dryopteris and Diplasium. Finally, let's look at the economic importance of pteridophytes. They have ornamental value. Because of their graceful foliage, ferns are grown as ornamental plants in gardens. They are also used as medicines. Rhizome and petiole of Dryopteris yields an antihelmintic drug. Lycopodium is used in the treatment of rheumatism, and Adiantum roots are used to help cure throat infection. Some are important as food, and we have some have soil binding properties. Equisetum stem are used in scoring, that is in cleaning utensils and polishing of metals. Then azolla has a symbiotic association with a nitrogen fixing cyanobacterium, and as a result of this it is inoculated to paddy fields or rice fields to function as a biofertilizer. So we'll stop here. Thank you.